桜テレビ
Yeah.
This is ultimately an organization that's calling for a caliphate.
Yeah.
Now, that word itself, it's a very jingoistic term.
Yeah.
It has certain associations, attributions. It brings back certain memories. It's been used during the war on terror. We had an organization, a criminal organization, that claimed to have established one in 2014. When people hear the caliphate, they're thinking hands getting chopped of the thief, men and women getting stoned for adultery, but mainly women, half dug up. We're thinking a map that's just getting big until the whole world, the entire region of the Muslim majority world, from Indonesia to Morocco to the Caucasus to Tanzania, is covered. It brings back these kind of memories, and it brings back these kind of thoughts. It brings up black flags and ISIS and guys shouting Allahu Akbar, and that's the depiction that the average non-Muslim may have when they hear the term caliphate, because of what they've been fed, because of what they've heard and read and listened to round the clock, especially during the peak years of the war on terror and ISIS. But ultimately, they still see as these guys are pan-Islamic supremacists. They want an Islamic state, an expansionist Islamic state. They want it to encompass the existing countries today. And whilst Dr. Abdul Wahid's here talking very pleasantly about how Muslims should carry themselves in the West and Delhi, actually, what these guys actually want is something a bit more sinister and actually goes against our civilizational fabric and hegemony. So they are a threat, irrespective of how well they're educated, irrespective of whether they were born here, irrespective of their forefathers fought for the British Army. These guys are enemy within. They live amongst us, they were born here, but they want something else.
So I recognize that since the ISIS perversion, for an average person in the street, the word has become scary. I also recognize that for those people who even before that look at their own history and the distortions of their own history over decades, which demonize Islam, and they saw a challenge to their power in the world from the Khilafah in the past, that it's a power struggle. All right. And it's a struggle for power. And they do see that as a threat, not to life. Those people, the policymakers and the establishment, you can say, in the West.
Power.
It's an issue of power. And they know it's not a threat to life. They think it's a threat to interests. Okay, because the Muslim world happens to be in the strategically most
geopolitical interest, financial interest,
energy interest, all of it, and they're going to lose that. They're going to lose that in one foul swoop if that happens, all right? And they will fight for that, and they'll blacken the name of Islam and Khilafah for that reason. But, you know, Elon Musk recently talked about the golden era of Islamic civilization. Even Tony Blair used to talk about that once, okay, when speeches. So when I think Barack Obama's talked about that. So what are they talking about when they're talking about the golden age of Islamic civilization, where Islam led the world in science and in education and in health, and people could live side by side with each other in harmony and civilization when Europe was in the dark ages, Muslim Spain, North Africa, the Middle East, the Caucasus, all these. But what are they talking about? The libraries in Baghdad, the hospitals in Baghdad. What are they talking about? They're talking about Khilafah. They're talking about when Islam was the basis of that society. Okay? But so it's something they can't even deny. They cannot even deny. You know, this week I was listening to a radio program about the Barbary Corsairs. All right. And the guys all non-Muslims presenting it. And they were basically saying, look, these were North African naval mercenaries, basically, who were commissioned by the governments. All right. European countries did it too. Venice, France, Habsburgs, they all had their own corsairs. Their what's the word for it? Privateers. Okay. Yeah. Private people who they were paid to do military stuff on the sea. Right. But the Barbaries were called pirates. They were demonized as having no laws, uncivilized, barbaric, blah, 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 right? Whereas the same labels were not applied to them. And these academics talking about it were saying, actually, when the Barbaries used to capture the Europeans and bring them into their place. They'd often capture them as prisoners of war, and they would be actually enslaved. But those people actually would write, and when they were freed from their slavery, they would actually write, you know what? It's much nicer over here. People are much kinder. We would like to stay. We don't want to leave. Some of them will become Muslim, right? And they were making this point. So actually, the way they demonize Islam, we know that over centuries they've done that. They will keep doing that. But why? It's a power thing.